You're listening to the QSO Radio Show. Brought to you by Ham Test Online and Transworld Antennas. And now your host, with the only wolf hong in the Southeast United States. Very few people know that. Ted Randall.
Hey, we're coming to you live. This is Dayton, 2012 Hamvention in Dayton, Ohio. And wow, I've been out in the flea market walking around, and I don't need to be out there because there's too many nostalgic things, too many things. You know, a fellow told me the other day, get right up on that mic if you can. The guy told me the other day, he says, what that flea market's for, really, is for us old guys to go out and visit our old equipment that we used to have.
Memories.
Alan Pitts is with me, and Alan is the public relations manager for the American Radio Relay League. He and I have been working together for quite some time, and I'm one of his biggest admirers because he can get all these guys together that have all these. Hams are the ones that have the most radically different opinions and all this kind of stuff. You get them all together on one roof playing ball on the same team.
And we're having absolutely too much fun. I mean, too much levity in this whole thing. This should not be allowed.
So tell me, this year, what has been the league's focus on? Usually every year, everybody takes a different kind of a different theme or whatever.
Well, the biggest thing this year is we came out initially with the DIY video, which is a short, about 8.5 minute video that was put on. I came up with the concept. Dave Bell, Bill Pasternak were the two biggest people that actually helped make it happen. And with the outreach, we recognized the growth of DIY and makers communities, hacker groups all throughout the United States, and got a fast little bit of an education myself when a number of these people, we're hackers. And I go, this is a bad thing. I'm not so sure about this. And I found out the term has really changed. It's not what I thought it was, the malicious use of computers. It just means doing cool stuff.
Well, yeah, and I've talked to folks that are into, I guess I'm going to say, HR at different companies responsible for hiring the IT section of their company, and it's weird because now, instead of folks looking necessarily for college-degreed IT people, they look for hackers, people who are really
creative, imaginative, and they're natural hams. I mean, they figure out we want to accomplish this, we'll find a way to do it. And there's so much overlap between the two communities, and yet there actually is little integration between the two. That ARL and I talked about it, and we decided to do a special outreach to the maker and hacker people. So we created the video and really been working very, very hard to get to makers fairs and other places where we've got these different groups and representatives from the groups, and put out the information that there's all kinds of neat things you can do with amateur radio, and also tell the hams there's all kinds of neat things these guys are doing over there. So that's the big theme for this year and the major push. Now here at Dayton, we've got a whole stage full, and I've got one going every hour of different presentations, people that are amateur radio people, but are doing all kinds of maker hacker things with Arduino chips, doing EME on a shoestring, working with microcontrollers, all kinds of neat things. And I have been very, very pleased because over there, every one of these presentations so far, when we started yesterday, we had 5 of them yesterday, and we've already gone through 2 of them today. Every seat in that area has been taken, and they're usually 4 deep standing.
Well, I've got a grandchild that's been hanging out over there at the ARL booth. He's 8 years old, and we brought him in here, and he vanishes. He goes right straight over to the ARL booth. Because you guys have got things for kids over there.
Oh, yeah.
And he is just totally taken by all this, So we were thinking about maybe having him take the test to get the ham license this time around, but it may have been over his head. But he didn't want to miss all the fun with all the kids because he's getting a chance to play with all the rest of these kids and work with them and learn with them and all the activities. Just an incredible thing.
They have a whole lot of fun over there in that youth area, and truthfully, I don't know of any other place in Dayton's Hamvention that there is a place for kids So if somebody comes with their parents or whatever, where else do they go? But they head there and they have fun.
We got Martin Jew that just sat down. Have you met Martin by any chance?
I not only have met him, I remember him for his kindness, his generosity, and being one heck of a gentleman at a time when we needed him. Now, I'm going to tell you a story about this guy.
Are you ready for this now?
You got to go.
I don't know. We'll see what he says.
You got to go back 6 years. And this is a little bit personal on the thing. But if you remember, there was a whole series of hurricanes. Florida got hit by 3 of them in 1 year. And, okay, fine. And the hams were very, very active. But then come about December, I learned that many of the families that the hams had been working with and helping, many of them were still living in homeless shelters with their kids and still living in shelters. And I talked to Dave Sumner, God love him, the chief executive officer for ARL. And just my way of thinking, we got to do something about this. Now, ARL had never done anything like it before, but that year we pulled the toy drive. And we asked amateur radio people from around the country if you can send money, because I set up things where we could buy toys really cheaply or get toys donated. And we brought them all together. If I remember right, I think it was Memphis we brought them together in.
Memphis.
And then, okay, so we had warehouses in Memphis. And then the question was, okay, how do we get them from Memphis down to Florida? I had found a voluntary organization called the White Dove down there, which was a nonprofit and had been working with the children all through that area. And they knew the kids, they knew the families, and there were hundreds of kids down there that were still living in shelters. And so we got to play Santa Claus, and I found one crazy old gentleman who had a couple of trucks who was actually willing to turn those trucks and have his trucks drive those toys from Memphis all the way down to Florida. And that gentleman happens, I appreciate it. I still appreciate it, Martin.
Well, I appreciate y'all asking us, and we were just happy to do it.
Now, he's also been real good with hurricanes and where we've hit and needed some equipment and things. He's been real fast on that. But that's the first I met you, and that's not forgotten.
Well, that's very nice of you.
This is a Southern gentleman, if ever there was one. Not a question on that. So anyway, the ARL has been known to do some strange things at times, but hopefully for the good.
I always love talking to Martin, and one of the reasons why is because years ago, I had bought I think it was a Drake TR3, and it didn't have a CW filter in it. And someone said, well, you need to get one of these MFJ CW filters, And I bought one, and I went inside the radio, and I disconnected the audio line, and I stuck it in series of the audio lines. When I flipped it on, it went through the speaker system. I didn't have to listen to the headphones. And it was an audio, very narrow band filter that this man designed and built. And I think at that time they sold for $19.95, I think, or something like that.
Well, that was pretty close. I think the kit version of it was $9.95. And Ted, you don't look old enough to have bought the first one.
Well, but I did, And boy, I mean, it was narrow. I mean, you'd flip that thing on, and I mean, it was right on down there. And that was the best thing with that little TR3 for CW. Did you ever do anything like that, Alan?
No, I haven't. But he's designed so dang many good things, which I do got. I mean, I've got a bunch of his stuff. Designed some. We got to get you one of those. Ask me why I DIY buttons for your shirt there.
Yeah, well, that'd be nice.
Well, I was going to say with Alan here, the most amazing thing. Now, Martin, because you deal with amateurs all the time. I mean, they call on the telephone and they buy a piece of equipment, and I'm sure a lot of them fuss, and that's just our nature. Hams love to fuss about something.
And some people need more hand-holding than others, and that's okay.
But one of the things that Alan does with the league, and that is that he has to somehow bring all this together. In other words, all these different groups, all these different people, and wind up promoting the league and promoting the hobby at the same time. So he and I have worked together off and on for a long time, and I have had a chance to observe him. And it's quite amazing, the diplomat he is. Of course, now he has a background for this because he came.
Found out about it too.
He came out of. Well, no. First off, he came out of a ministry situation.
Right.
So you were,
ordained Lutheran pastor.
Yeah. So
for years.
What a better person to do public relations for the league than an ordained Lutheran minister who can keep all the Indians tame. This is like missionary work. Is what it is.
There's a lot of similarities.
So, but I really I appreciate you stopping by. I know you're just busier than
there's stuff going on. The one thing, which I will mention at this particular point, and your audience will probably have at least some familiarity with what's going on. As you know, within the United States, there's two different types of laws. There is the actual government rules, regulations, and then there is what's called contract law. And amateur radio has a law, the PRB1 regulations, which limit the government zoning, building restrictions that things can put on to make it so that amateur radio at least has to be reasonably accommodated, and you can't have a city or a county government turn around and wipe it out and say, oh no, you can't build antennas here. But at the same time, there are a lot of homeowners associations who have what is called CC&R, or covenant law, and this is actually a contract which is oftentimes built up. CC&Rs are often, we're found, being required by the government people, the county or the city, before you can even develop a piece of property, before you can even build houses on that property. And one of the things that happened recently is the United States Congress told the Federal Communications Commission that they wanted them to do a fast study on, are all these CC&Rs getting to be as bad as we think they might be? And what is its effect on emergency communications and the capabilities of amateur radio in emergencies? And they had 180 days to do it. Well, the FCC, as will happen, being a bureaucracy, it took a little while before they even got around at it, but meanwhile, this 180-day clock was ticking. Now, once they did release the inquiry, the ARRL went and polled our members, and we got thousands of responses. And I personally went through about 2,000 of those responses, and will admit that I was shocked that how many people are really under a restrictive area, and they do not have a chance. It's not a voluntary contract. There was never any negotiation across the table about the CC&R. It was you sign here or goodbye, and a lot of these people can't move to another state, another county, another territory. It's the only thing that's there. So anyway, ARRL ultimately did a survey, put it all together into a report that goes back to the FCC, and that was done this past week. Now, what happens there? Well, first of all, I got to admit, I am very, very proud of that ARRL report. If you read the thing, it's 130 some odd pages long, but if you just read the first 48, the main argument, it reads like a novel. It lays out the argument, absolutely wonderful. I don't like legalese language, but I've never read anything that is quite as clear and as nice as that. But where does it go? We submitted it back to the FCC. The FCC has now closed their inquiry. The FCC will choose what it wants, and they will make their report back to Congress. And what Congress does with it from there, we do not know. For the simple reason, I don't know what Congress is going to do this year, if anything.
Does anyone?
No, I don't think so. The point being, though, this was the one opportunity. Well, chances of anything happening actually are rather small. If the ARRL did not file like it did, the chances of anything happening would have been zero. We can't promise anything's going to happen. We don't know. It's not in our hands. But we kept alive the possibilities. And that's the part of the power of the ARRL. They do good. They really try to help all of amateur radio, not just any particular one little segment or one little population of it. And we promote all of amateur radio. And that's part of my job.
You know, I'll tell you, and a lot of folks don't realize all the stuff that goes on behind the scenes. That's the problem. We just don't know. We don't hear about it, you know. And some of it at the time, I guess, when it's going on, you really can't publicize it. It's something you can't really, you know, get in the middle of, I guess I want to say. It almost has to get down the road a fur piece before that, as we say in Tennessee, you know, before.
Well, I'll give you an example of that. Okay, we're coming up to our centennial. Okay, what is going to be the theme or the slogan for the centennial? Now, if I turn that, and I've been asked to work on that, if I turn that loose to the membership, 158,000 people are going to come back at me with 158,000 possibilities and answers, and some of them will be good, and some of them will be off the wall, and some will be past Pluto. And if you think I'm really going to be able to evaluate 158,000 things, you're crazy. Okay? So, how we do it and how we're going to go about it is I take a select group, officers, the public relations committee, things like that, and get about 40 people to give me their best ideas. And then from those, I'll bring it down to, 12, 15 of them, then turn that loose to the membership and say, hey, what do you think about these 12? Put them in order. Which ones do you like? That's manageable. Now, is that restricting the membership input? To some extent, yes, but it makes it doable. It makes it livable for everybody. So, in some ways, you're correct. You got to be a little further down the road and at least know which direction you're going before you turn everything loose sometimes.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Well, what's on the agenda here? Where are you headed, and what?
Well, I'm going to be headed back to that ARRL DIY stage. We got 8 presentations today, they've been good. Right now, I've got Mark Cram covering for me, so I could come over and say hi. But I got to head back there and having a whole lot of fun, learning and listening myself.
Well, we've had. I guess I want to say we've just had an awful lot of. What I want to say, we've had a lot of activity in terms of hams coming by here that have not been to Dayton before, that are new to the license, so just getting the license and whatnot. And I guess I've been kind of amazed because a lot of them have got shortwave radios. A lot of them are buying HF equipment, because you would think that the new licensees would be focused on VHF. They're buying HF stuff,
Yep.
So they're preparing to get.
They're looking at upgrading,
going down the road a little further, So I think that I guess I want to say you've got your work cut out for you, because you've got this whole new young group of folks that are coming on board that are just not familiar with what's going on, and somehow they have to get acquainted with all this, and they got to have a reason why they visit Martin Jew's website and get those antenna analyzers and antennas and amplifiers.
Those things are wonderful. That was the best product you've ever come out with, is that antenna analyzer.
Well, we've had. I'll tell you, that's the way it's been with me, and I'll tell you what else. We've actually used it on the FM broadcast band to take a quick look at 10-bay broadcast antennas, and I wish the thing went down into the AM broadcast band arena, because that would really help a lot, but you can't have everything,
We'll have one.
Okay.
The other thing is, at some point in time, I would really like to talk to some of the fellas that man W1AW and talk about
Joe Carcio.
All the different things that run on W1AW. I know it's published in the magazine, but I get people asking me all the time, what's on W1AW? And I say, well, there's bulletins, there's code practice, and there are people that visit, that come by there and get on the air and actually talk on the thing and communicate with people. I said, it's smart.
The guy you want to talk with is named Joe Carcio, and he's not here because he's running W1AW.
Yeah, well, we'll have to meet up with him at some point in time. We plan on coming to Newington with our setup.
Look forward to it.
If y'all will have us, and
look forward to it.
And broadcasting from there, as well as we want to go down to Martin's place too. And,
that'd be fun too.
Oh gosh, I could get lost in there with all the things. But I really appreciate you coming by and taking.
Well, it's been fun to stop in, and you take care.
Okay. You do the same, and I appreciate you taking. And I know how busy you are. So, Martin Jew, I'm so elated you've come by to talk to us. I'm trying to turn down the extra microphones here.
Okay, well,
Get rid of some of the crowd noise.
Well, I appreciate you asking me to come and talk to you.
Oh my goodness, it's the highlight of our Dayton show to get you over here because I don't know. I mean, I just think that I look at all the companies that are here, everybody here, and I mean, there's some people put out some really good stuff, and there's a lot of really good radio companies, accessory companies. But hey, listen, you know what? You've won it hands down, man. I mean, there's more stuff. Yeah, my favorite CW paddle is one of yours. I don't even know what model it is. I just know it has a stainless steel base.
Oh, yeah.
And absolutely love the thing. And I've tried I don't know how many different ones. And, of course, I think with those things it comes down to the feel. It's like what feels good to you.
Oh, I think so. And that's a pretty personal thing. As I was driving, or as we were driving from Mississippi up to the Dayton Hamvention, I was operating CW with 1 watt on 40 meters with a 8-foot telescoping whip antenna and a loading coil. Yeah, that was a lot of fun to make QRP contacts.
Now, were you driving?
CW. No, I wasn't driving.
By the same token, I've got friends of mine that strap keys on their legs and do CW in their head while they're driving. I mean, and they can do that for some reason. I can barely think about where is the turn signal indicator.
I know. That's the way I am. But I have operated CW and driven at the same time. Just have to be a little careful in doing that.
Okay, now on 1 watt, you were running 1 watt. Were you running a key or a straight key or?
No, this was an electronic keyers, one of the ones that's similar to the one that you used. But 40 meters is pretty difficult to operate sideband with that low power. But CW, you can make plenty of contacts that way.
Well, just give me an example. You were running 1 watt. Now, what kind of rig was that?
It was one of our new QRP rigs. It's the 9214. Let's see. I believe that's the right number. But it's one that has a digital readout, and it covers bands from 80 meters through 15 meters by using plug-in modules. It's a nice, easy rig to use. In fact, I was using pinlight cells that was inside the radio.
Now, okay, but tell me about your contacts. Who were you able? Where were you at, and who were you talking to?
Well, it was during the middle of the drive. I think I was in Kentucky, Tennessee, somewhere around there, and I was just talking to some people several hundred miles away. I don't really remember where they were right now, but just some local few 100-mile contacts.
So when you tell somebody that you're on CW, well, they know you're on CW, but they know you're running 1 watt mobile. What's their reaction usually?
Well, they can hardly believe it. Running 1 watt to a lot of them is pretty foreign to them. Even from their home station with big antennas, but when they hear a QRP signal like that mobile, that gets them interested in doing it.
I was going to say, but if you've got, now the antenna you were running, was this outside, is it mounted, or were you using a little, you couldn't possibly be using a whip inside there?
Well, no, this was one of our telescoping whips that when it's fully extended, it's 8 feet, and there's a very high Q air wound base loading coil. Q is about 300. That's pretty high Q. Now, the thing about this telescoping whip is that when I'm driving around town, it's too high, too tall for me to drive into my garage. So I can collapse it down where I can drive into the garage and operate around town. Now, around Starkville, I usually have a 10-meter, 10-watt radio, one of those that we make, 9410. And I can operate all over the U.S. and all over the northern hemisphere, into Europe, South America, just about any time when the band's even just a little bit open. So, but if you're going somewhere where the antenna's not presentable, you just collapse it all the way down and nobody even notices it. Now, the loading course is, I don't know, maybe 8 inches tall, maybe an inch or 2 in diameter, but it has an alligator clip on it, so you can operate all bands from 40 meters through 2 meters with just one antenna.
Let me ask you this: for that particular antenna, dollars and cents wise, what does it run ballpark wise? Somebody wants to go HF in the car, and I'm sure they're looking at